An extreme heat warning just issued. Dangerous heat is triggering multiple WRAL weather alert days, the soonest we could see relief.
2 North Carolina state troopers are now fired after getting caught on camera lying about a deadly crash. Then missing furniture mystery. Why did North Carolina's lieutenant governor find no furniture in her Raleigh headquarters? And why is she asking the state to cough up nearly $100,000?
I hope your air conditioning is humming along nicely. We topped out at 100 degrees today at RDU. Some seriously dangerous heat, and there is more on the way. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. We have seen multiple emergency calls because of the heat today. Hundreds of power outages. That has to be so tough for so many people. Meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Kat, it's another triple-digit day for us tomorrow.
And we only average 1 to 2 of these days in the triple digits each year. So it's a pretty big deal. Even around here, RDU had 100 degrees today. That ties the record high from last year. 104 is the current heat index, 104 in Fayetteville, Clinton, 106 the current heat index in Goldsboro. And the heat advisory is in effect through 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So there's not going to be much relief even overnight. Then the heat gets worse. Tomorrow should be the worst of it. Wednesday, still pretty bad. An extreme heat warning in effect both tomorrow and Wednesday for heat indices near or exceeding 110. We could get up to 112 in spots. Here's that town by town forecast for you. 112, the forecast heat index tomorrow in Raleigh, Benson, Goldsboro, Fayetteville, Clinton. It'll feel like 111 in Sanford, Rocky Mount, and South Hill. 110 for Lewisburg as well as Durham. So these numbers are dangerous. Make sure you're hydrating early and often. I'll have a closer look at when the heat should back off and storm chances climb again coming up.
I'll take some backing off heat. Yeah, thank you, Kat. So here, this was a big development today. 2 troopers who were caught on camera lying about a deadly crash in Raleigh have been fired. State Highway Patrol announcing the move this afternoon. WRAL's Eric Miller has been following this story for us. Joins us live now outside of the State Highway Patrol headquarters. Eric, the family of the man who died in that crash says that this still is not enough for them.
And then a lot of reactions coming in this afternoon. In fact, just within the last hour, we interviewed an activist who's been pushing both State Highway Patrol and Raleigh Police to make changes in the wake of this incident. And the thing that really stood out, talking to her and talking to an attorney for the family, has been the surprise. This move really catching a lot of people off guard here. Still, both that activist and the attorney for the family say it's a step in the right direction. Now, you take a look at this video here. This is dash cam and body camera video going back to October 7th of last year. That's when that deadly crash happened. In the video, you can see now former trooper Garrett Macario chasing Tyrone Mason before Mason crashes his car. In the video, you eventually also see both Macario as well as Sergeant Matthew Morrison planning to lie to Raleigh police. That spawned an investigation, which now has gotten both Macario and Morrison fired.
I think that this is a step in the journey for justice. I think that we didn't have an expectation this would be done. This is not something that's done often, but it goes to the gravity of what we're dealing with. You don't dismiss over 100 cases. You don't fire officers if everything was done by the book.
You told me. Now, Mason's family is continuing to sue now former trooper Macario, as well as is in the process of suing Raleigh Police Department. We've reached out to both Macario as well as Morrison for comment in this case. They referred us to their attorneys. In Raleigh, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
All right, thank you, Eric. I know a lot of you are just getting to the news tonight, so let's roll you through some of today's big headlines with the 5 things you should know right now. We're learning more about the 5 people who were hurt on a flight to RDU. 2 passengers and 3 flight attendants went to the hospital because of some really rough and unexpected turbulence. This happened around 11:30 last night on an American Airlines flight from Miami. American Airlines says the seatbelt sign was on at the time, but one passenger spoke to WRAL about this, recounting what is just a terrifying situation. You can get that full account right now over on WRAL.com. Wake County Sheriff's Office responding to a car into a lake. If you look closely there, you can see that is the car there just below the water. Sky 5 over that scene this afternoon in the small lake off of Serenity Lake Drive near Wake Forest. Investigators have not said if anyone was hurt in this or how that car ended up in what is more of a pond. The state says that they want to spend $2.5 billion in a new Helene relief package. It's a huge increase from what they were considering, which was a little less than $500 million. The proposal moved to committee this afternoon. Lawmakers are still trying to come up on an agreement on the larger state budget. They're thinking maybe let's get the Helene stuff out of that and make some moves toward Helene while they work over the other details. So we're getting an early look now at an audit into the North Carolina DMV. It found that the department, frankly, needs more driver's license examiners and more flexibility for the current staff. DMV offices all over the state have seen super long wait times because of staffing problems and the fact that our state is growing so fast. The full audit on the DMV will be released at a later date. UNC's athletic program says they're going to start next week and share $20 million with athletes in 4 sports. The NCAA now allows schools to pay players directly up to $20 million. At UNC, it'll be football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball. They'll all get a slice of the pie. To pay for this, the athletics department will get a $30 million bump in the budget, as well as look at bringing some revenue from other places like sponsorships. Something is a little off about North Carolina Lieutenant Governor's mansion. There's no furniture, like none. Like, where are you supposed to sit? I'm not sure. Where's all the staff supposed to work? You see, the mansion may look like a house from the outside, but it's really more of an office building where the Lieutenant Governor and her staff are supposed to work every day. But they don't have any furniture. And now the current Lieutenant Governor, Rachel Hunt, wants you to replace it. $95,000 in the state budget to refurnish the place. I asked WRAL state government reporter Paul Spey about what's going on here. All right, Paul, let's talk about this and start with, where is the furniture? Where'd it go?
Well, Mark Robinson took it. He's the most recent lieutenant governor before Rachel Hunt, who just moved in. We have to go way back to 2013 to even understand how we got here. Dan Forrest was Robinson's predecessor. He got in 2013 and said, hey, this is a historic landmark, but this office furniture, from the state is not good enough. It's not befitting of, the office of the second highest ranking political official in the state. Let's bring in some new stuff. Well, his term ends in 2020. He goes to Robinson and says, hey, you can keep some of my stuff here, or the stuff that I had on loan, or you can bring your own. Well, Robinson just moves Forrest stuff to the basement and says, nah, I want to put my own furniture in here now. Now, nobody told Rachel Hunt any of this, apparently, when she walked in just this past winter.
So she opens the door to an empty building.
That's right. So she sees these bare walls and some empty rooms and says, like, hey, where's all the desks?
Why didn't she know? Why did she not ask Mark Robinson?
Well, no. Mark Robinson says she never called him. He says she's never spoken to him, even when he used to preside over the Senate, where she used to be a state senator. And that's because they don't like each other. So they have a history. They don't exactly want to talk to each other.
So now we have this line item in the gigantic budget for close to $100,000 for furniture.
It does seem like Lieutenant Governor Hunt is trying to solve a problem. She's asking state lawmakers, hey, can you give us some money to buy some permanent couches, some permanent desks that are good enough for this historic landmark?
They had permanent stuff at one point in time. What's to stop the next lieutenant governor from coming in and saying, I don't like this permanent stuff, put it in the basement, I want new stuff?
Well, there's nothing stopping them. It seems, these last 3 people have had their own ideas for what should be in there. Will we repeat the same cycle after Hunt leaves office in 4 or 8 years? I don't know.
This is a very small amount of money, even though it's $100,000 in a multi-billion-dollar budget, but it caught people's attention, and probably for some obvious reasons. Is there some gossip around this at the legislature?
I would say people have called us about it, even before we reported on it, to say, hey, did you notice this line item? And yeah, the proposed state Senate budget is $32 billion. This is a request for $95,000. That's like a rounding error to these guys. And so, but yeah, people are talking and asking, why does Hunt need money? Why does this house need furniture? And that's a question that we tried to answer in our story.
All right, we'll keep watching. Do some interior decorating, see what we think at the end. A little home and garden or whatever they call it. All right, Paul, thank you.
Thanks.
So we have a couple of topics that we want to talk about tonight in the in-depth mailbag. Sanford, for instance, saw a lot of flooding recently. One viewer pointed out they may be missing out on a tool to keep people informed in the future. Plus, another viewer asked, no tax on tips got the okay. What about no tax on Social Security? And stick around for tonight's One Last Thing as Duke scientists celebrate a brand new way to look into the universe. But first, let's get you a look ahead of the news stories that we're keeping an eye on for you this week. Tomorrow, the Wake County School Board is meeting, and this is a big deal because they're expected to be making some decisions on the cost of school meals. The price could go up. The NBA draft is on Wednesday. Duke Blue Devil Cooper Flagg expected to go number 1 overall to the Dallas Mavericks. The Charlotte Hornets have the number 4 pick. And Thursday and Friday will be big days in Washington, D.C. The Senate is expected to get closer to a decision on the House-approved tax and spending bill. The deadline for that is July 4th. We're back after this. We've got a pair of stories we want to talk about tonight, brought to us by 2 emails that we got from 2 different viewers. First up, taxes. So the U.S. Senate is going to be talking about what's next for taxes a little later this week. So we should talk about it too. Carolyn wrote in and said, the president said there would be no taxes on Social Security. Do you suppose he forgot that? And Carolyn, I'm detecting a little bit of sarcasm in your message, possibly. Did I get that right? It is true. President Trump has called for no tax on Social Security. It was one of the several tax cuts that he proposed during his address to Congress back in March.
I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
So no tax on tips. We'll start there. That passed the Senate last month with unanimous consent. The House still has to take it up. We'll let you know what happens. No tax on overtime was presented in the Senate, but that one's still in committee. But Carolyn wants to know about no tax on Social Security. I got to say, I don't think the president forgot about it. Remember when I said that the Senate is going to be talking about taxes this week? Well, that is because the deadline is approaching to make a decision on the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, the tax and spending plan the House approved last month. It doesn't include no tax on Social Security, but it does include a tax break specifically for seniors. Anyone age 65 and older would get an extra deduction of up to $4,000 a year on their income tax. The more money that you make, the smaller that number gets. And this would be temporary. It expires in 2028 if it goes into effect. The Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center found a retiree making $50,000 a year would probably see a tax cut of about $500 a year. So it's not nothing, not quite the level of savings you might see by eliminating the tax outright. The Senate does have their own version of this, proposing a larger $6,000 deduction instead of the $4,000. The reason both chambers favor the deduction, it's less expensive. Eliminating taxes on Social Security would cost more than $1 trillion. The deduction, if made permanent, would cost $200 billion over the next 10 years. President Trump set a deadline for July 4th to get that big spending bill to his desk. We'll let you know what happens, of course. Moving on now to the question about the weather, specifically flooding. Earlier this month, we showed you this video in Sanford. One of those powerful summertime storms came through and just flooded that area. We're talking about water rescues and home evacuations, streets that were closed. It's like video that you typically would see following a hurricane. A viewer named Adam pointed us to this map. It's part of the system called Flood Inundation Mapping and Alert Network. It shows all of the flood gauges in North Carolina, and there are hundreds of them. Those green dots mean water levels are normal. Orange, red, purple dots, that means that the area is flooding. This system can be very, very helpful to let people know where flood-prone areas are, when those areas are flooding, and alerts to first responders to some of those problem areas. And Adam noticed something very interesting about the map. He wrote, Sanford has no gauges, but Cary has a boatload, something you could cover in depth. Dramatic voice, in depth. Was that good enough? He's right. Cary has about 40 gauges. Sanford has 0 gauges. The question is why? Well, for starters, FEMA doesn't install the gauges themselves. That's going to be up to state agencies or cities or community grounds and companies, that sort of thing. Anyone who wants a gauge in their area can get one, but it's up to them. They then buy the gauge and get it online. Then they contact FEMA to add it to their system. The reason Cary has so many is because the town made a concerted effort to install them. It's part of something they call the Smart and Connected Cities program that started in 2016. The town partners with local companies like SAS to upgrade the city. Things like traffic cameras, synced traffic lights, automated HVAC management, and flood gauges. So, Adam, it's kind of on the city or on the community to get these gauges for themselves. Now, we did reach out to firemen to ask if they have any suggestions for cities like Sanford to get some of these gauges, but we haven't heard back yet. We'll let you know. Just 2 topics in tonight's in-depth mailbag. What else do you want the news to be talking about? Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what is on your mind, and we will go in depth. That's extra dramatic for that last viewer. Kat?
I love firemen. We're lucky in North Carolina to have a tool that has so many locations like that, and it is immensely useful throughout the summer months and hurricane season. If you've never looked at it, do so for your own home address. It's really useful information where you live. Let's take a look outside at White Lake tonight. A beautiful sunset glimmering on the water. We had a lot of swimmers out here earlier today doing their best to try to beat the heat, dealing with temperatures reaching triple digits at RDU. There have been some questions in recent years about the validity of the RDU sensor, and we are noticing that there are less temperature spikes around RDU, it seems, this year. We're still relatively early in the summer months, but I'm trusting the numbers a little bit more this year, I would say, than last. We had 100 today at RDU, 97 there right now, 95 in Fayetteville, Rocky Mount. I mean, it's after 7 o'clock, and we're still in the mid to upper 90s. The heat index 104 in the Triangle in Fayetteville, 100 in Rocky Mount. It's a heat advisory right now, but an extreme heat warning will go into effect tomorrow and Wednesday. And an extreme heat warning is a tier up from the heat advisory. A heat advisory in our area, and you've got to remember, these numbers actually change depending on what part of the country and state that you're in. A heat index of 104 to 109 would constitute a heat advisory, and an extreme heat warning would be a heat index of 110 or above. We average 8 to 9 of those heat advisories per year in central North Carolina, but only 1 to 2 extreme heat warnings. So these are pretty important around here. We'll be in the triple digits for the heat index by 11 a.m. The worst of this will come noon through about 6 p.m. If you can avoid being outside, especially during those hours, I recommend doing so. High pressure is in control of our local weather right now. This is the heat dome that is stuck right over top of us. It'll start to break down later this week. We'll still be under the influence of the high pressure, but it won't be as strong and kind of as concentrated over North Carolina. We do have a cold front to our west. We're not going to see cold weather come from it anytime soon. In fact, the bulk of the rain in that front stays north of us, but it'll sag just far enough to the south where it could spark some thunderstorm complexes that push into North Carolina. A couple of hit or miss storms Wednesday and another round potentially of some scattered storms on Thursday. While this looks like a ton of rain on Thursday, just keep in mind this is pretty low resolution modeled data. At this point, it looks like it would be a bit more isolated than that, about a 30% chance of storms, and we'll adjust that as we get in the high resolution model data tomorrow. So check in for an update tomorrow on your rain chances. Just know there's no day that really looks like it's going to have a lot of rain on the radar of the next 7, but any storms that do develop could become strong with damaging wind gusts just because it's going to be so hot and humid. That means there will be a lot of available energy in the atmosphere. Low temperatures, 78 tomorrow night will be, the lowest we go is 76 over the next 7 days. That's the lowest temperature even at night that we have in sight, Dan. I do see some improvements by next Wednesday and Thursday, though.
Oh, okay. We'll hold on for that. Thank you, Kat. One last thing. Some big news for a really big telescope. New images of our universe. Thousands of stars, millions of asteroids, a bunch of scientists from Duke working on this. And we're going to hear from them after the break. One last thing for you tonight, something really cool in space news, and researchers at Duke had something to do with it. Check it out. So these are the first ever pictures taken at the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. It captured the light of millions of stars in the night sky, identified thousands of previously unseen asteroids. The telescope that they use there is huge, and the amount of data that it brings in is also huge. 20 terabytes of information every single night. You know how much that is? It is a huge leap forward in the field of study. And like I said, Duke researchers were an integral part to make this happen. And they celebrated today's milestone by watching the images come in at Duke's football stadium. And WRAL's Liz McLaughlin was there.
This is where touchdowns normally steal the spotlight, but today all eyes on the big screen, not for a football game, but for powerful new images from an observatory in Chile.
Today is really exciting.
Stargazers and scientists gathered at Wallace Wade Stadium Monday.
And we got the biggest screen we could find
to see the result of more than a decade of work, streamed live from half a world away.
It looks amazing. That validates why I spend all my time doing this.
The Vera Rubin Observatory released its first images, captured with the largest digital camera ever built, a 3,200 megapixel powerhouse perched in Chile's high desert.
And it covers the entire sky every 3 nights or so, and it does it for 10 years. So we're going to get this unbelievable map of the sky and how it changes.
Duke researchers helped design key pieces of the telescope's hardware and software, used to detect everything from dark matter to exploding stars to incoming asteroids.
If there's an asteroid which is coming towards the Earth, this will allow us to know well ahead of time so that we can go and push it out of the way.
And now you can zoom through billions of galaxies with an interactive sky map online. It's not just space nerds watching. Research here in North Carolina is helping unlock the secrets of the cosmos. Duke researchers say this is just the beginning. In just a single year, the Rubin Observatory is expected to gather more data than all previous astronomical surveys combined. In Durham, I'm Liz McLaughlin, WRAL News.
Remarkable, the strides we are taking. Thank you to Liz, and thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and at 11 o'clock on WRAL. We will see you then. Have a great night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.